Hi there, it's me, Stephen Thomas with Reports on Housing. I'm coming to you with another housing debrief. It's Thursday evening, the 17th of October, and I'm kind of going to give you a lay of the land as to where we are right now in the middle of October. And so here we are, another housing debrief, sorry, easy for me to say, with Reports on Housing. And this week we're talking about housing demand and the bounce. So there's been a bounce in demand, and not a lot of people are really aware of what's going on. And this all stems from the Federal Reserve and what they have done to the housing market. And I want to kind of talk about it a bit. So back in 2022, the August of 2022, Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell, my friend Jerry, came out from the Economic Symposium in Jackson Hole, Wyoming, and basically stated that he was going to inflict pain. The Federal Reserve, inflict pain on everybody in the United States, all consumers, as well as all businesses, and that they were going to ratchet up rates even higher, and as a result, there would be a lot of pain out there because rates had been so low for so long, and now they've made it extremely restrictive. We saw them raise rates so much. It was like the biggest change in rates since the 1980s. But if you actually do it by percentages, it was ridiculous how big of a massive change it was suddenly and very, very swiftly. And everybody thought that because interest rates were so much higher that we were going to get a crash in the housing market because home affordability just tanked. It absolutely, with rates being in the threes, low threes, or even in the twos, below three, it was very easy to for people to qualify. But when rates went all the way from 3 all the way up to 7.37% in 2022, and then they even surpassed 8% last year, as a result, it really slowed up the overall housing market. It really did. It didn't result in a crash. Instead, what we saw was the housing market just absolutely froze. We saw that the number of homeowners that were willing to list, because so many homeowners had these great rates. So it really put on pause the number of homes that came to market. And we saw last year an absolute bare minimum of homes across the United States that came on the market. This year there's been a few more homes, but it is still well below where we were prior to COVID. So that's basically where things are, absolutely frozen. And it's not just demand side because of home affordability. It was the home seller side, so the number of sellers on the market. So both sides of the equation really slowed down, and it just froze the market where there were not that many transactions that took place. So as a result, it just stopped the market, and very, very few homes were changed hands. And we just saw this big giant dive in the number of closed sales across the United States and in all markets. And that was following. So 2021 was one of the best years that almost dated all the way back, depending upon the market, to like 2005, where things were just absolutely nutty back then. And that's anybody could get a loan type of thing. And that's how many units that across the United States, that residential resale that they were seeing in 2021, because rates were so low. It started off the year at like 2.65%. So that just really allowed a lot of transactions to take place. But what we've realized is that since rates are higher, that the housing market is extremely, extremely interest rate sensitive. And you could see that with when we get at 7% or higher, it absolutely freezes the marketplace. And we saw that this year. This is this year. That red line is all of this year. And it starts at the left-hand side where that red line is. And basically what you're seeing is that red line, it started there in January. For most of the year, we were above 7% for a giant chunk of the year. As a matter of fact, This is from April all the way till July 31st. Rates remained above 7%. They actually came down to 7% for like a day, down to 7%, but they remained above 7% for all that time. So during the spring and summer, the best time and the second best time in the market, we actually witnessed very, very high rates. And it was against a spring market. So it lined up at the absolute worst time for the housing market. So as a result, very, very few units were even done during that time period. There would have been a lot more transactions that were taking place had rates been below 7%. Above 7%, it's just so restrictive. There are very few people across the United States that can afford homes in the 7%. Above 7%, there's still a lot that are out there, but it's just not as many as once rates start to really drop. So it really gummed up the market, and we saw how much it froze the marketplace. We even saw 8%. And if you want to know when we saw 8%, it was a year ago. What I'm pointing to is the right around at the 20th, 21st of October of 2023. Interest rates across the United States surpassed 8%. That was after everybody believed that the housing market was going to be higher for longer. And as a matter of fact, October has been home, and I talked about this last week. October has been home to the spookiest time period for interest rates this year, last year, and the year before. Now, where rates are today, we'll get into that. They're not as bad as they were during the springtime, but they're higher than where they were prior to the Fed making their 0.5 point rate cut. But still, where we are today is way better than where we were a year ago. And last year, 8%. The year before that, we started off the year at 3.25% in 2022 and made our way above 7%, 7.37%. It was such a gigantic change in rates, and nobody knew where these were going to stop, that it really gummed up the market. And as a matter of fact, values even came down because rates were going up at such an incredibly fast speed. And so October of 2022 and October of 2023 and October of 2024, home to a bit higher rates, when right prior to that we were used to a bit lower as far as rates are concerned. But 6%, anything in the sixes seems to be, it's not excellent, but it's better. It's definitely better. We get a bit of a thawing in the marketplace, and we actually have been below 7%. So in the sixes since August 1st. And even recently, as far as today, we had retail sales came out. They were a little bit hotter than expected. And we had this slight rise in rates today. Nothing beats the job numbers. And the job numbers come out like once a month. And then we weekly get these job reports, initial jobless claims. They can move the market a bit in a week where we don't have a lot of volatility. But it's pretty much once a month we find out at the very beginning of the month what the prior month's jobs looked like, and that can move interest rates like crazy. And but we've been now in the sixes for duration, and once you're in a certain pocket, the 6% range, that certain pocket, it really does help as far as demand is concerned. And we definitely see that thawing taking place, and we see more transactions taking place because we're finally below 7%. Had this matched up during the spring, it would have been a much better year, a totally different story for 2024, but that's not what happened. That's not what occurred. And I actually am pleasantly, it's not surprised, but I felt pretty darn good about getting to 6.1%. It made me feel good about, this is everything that we talked about. Once we get to 6%, or if we get below 6%, it is going to be incredible. And we were at 6.1% a day before the Fed cut rates, and it was the week prior to that. So 6.1% was a real low, and we saw a lot more activity take place. Not only a lot more activity, we saw refinance activity taking place because a lot of people could refinance, and we saw a lot of people locking, and we could see what was going on with demand. Almost, within the next couple of weeks, you could really see it in those numbers. And where we are today It's still way higher than where we were. It's like what I said, but it's not actually that bad. We're at 6.68%. And if you look to prior to July 31st, this is even at 6.68, which is higher than where we were at 6.1%. It still is the second best interest rate if you exclude all recently, but prior to August 1st, it was only lower once. And you could see it was only lower for a day in February. It went down and then went right back up. So it was only for one day. We have had, with duration, these low rates. And even at 6.68%, it's a bit higher. I would argue that where interest rates are right now, it's a little bit oversold. And then what happens is that once one of the numbers readings comes in where it's less than expectations, all of a sudden you're going to see a lot more people, a lot more investors getting into mortgage-backed securities, and we'll watch interest rates fall back down. So this 6.68, pretty close to 6.7, is kind of a height for right now where we're at. And so as far as what we are actually seeing in the demand numbers, demand is absolutely been rising. And it's only recently have we seen this rise. But first, before I get into those demand numbers, I want to talk about our sponsor. And our sponsor is new with us this week. And it's agentmatch.ai. It's a brand new company that's out there. And what is agentmatch.ai? Well, it's a revolutionary platform that connects users with the best real estate agents using unbiased performance-based data. The platform leverages MLS data and AI matching algorithms to create a personalized agent recommendation system based on customer needs and agent performance. And the key benefits are faster, more efficient agent connections and higher customer satisfaction by eliminating paid lead generation biases. So for agents, get matched with serious and vetted clients completely free, no hidden fees, no gimmicks. Match today, meet your new clients tomorrow. Start your free profile at www.agentmatch.ai and make connections that count. So it's actually coming soon. It's being launched October 28, 2024, but go to agentmatch.ai and sign up. So thank you very much. Appreciate the sponsorship, agentmatch.ai. So back to the program, let's talk about demand. Demand is actually up. And you can see that demand's up in the numbers. In Southern California, year over year, and you can actually see this, that it's getting a lot larger. The difference between last year and this year is kind of like the same demand curve. And the reason why the market slowed down this year is because there have been not the same number of homes coming on the market. There have been more homes coming on the market, and they're still matched up against the same demand because we had interest rates in the 7s. And so as a result, those extra homes that were coming on the market just accumulated, and we had the same demand. So if you had more homes on the market and similar demand as last year, what that means is the market has been slowing all year long, and that explains what has been going on. But recently, what we're seeing is that with these interest rates in the 6s with duration, don't have a 7 to start it off with, they're in the 6s. You could see that in Southern California, demand is up 12% over last year, and that's the purple line versus the blue line, and it's definitely doing better. And we're going to dive into market by market really quick. For the Bay Area demand, it's actually up 20% over last year, and it beats 2022, as does barely Southern California, but it beats 2022 where we're at. But you can see what the direction that it's going. In 2022, we had interest rates that got up to 7.37%, and it really slowed down. And it normally slows down towards the end of the year, but you could see how this is surpassing where we were last year and where we were the prior year. And it's kind of like a bit higher than what had been anticipated because rates are low. So demand in Bay Area up 20%. And if you want to go market by market, you could see LA is up 25% year over year. Orange County's up 21%. Riverside's up 15%. San Bernardino's bringing down the curve, but they were negative and now they're positive. They're up 3% year over year. San Diego up 15%. Ventura up 36%. Clark County, Vegas up 10%. And Maricopa, Phoenix up 19%. And a lot of these markets feel extremely sluggish. They feel sluggish, like, oh my gosh, what's going on? And I kind of explained that. That's where we have more homes matched up. It's actually demand that's a little bit higher. So in many, many markets, we've actually seen the market time, our expected market time, not days on market. We have a metric called expected market time, and it's the true speed and velocity of the market. And it's based upon any changes in pending sales and in the supply. So it's looking at supply and demand, and based upon changes in supply and demand is how fast the market is. It's just basic supply and demand, and that's why we created this thing. Days on market doesn't really tell you that. But this expected market time statistic, which we have for all of our reports, that's basically what we're telling you is what is that true speed of the market. So it feels a little bit sluggish right now, and that was because of the 7% plus interest rates with more homes coming on the market and accumulating and having a larger inventory. So what's happening is with that larger inventory, we're having a lot of seller competition where sellers are now competing more with each other. So what we're seeing is it's a little bit more sluggish because we don't have sellers like really reducing asking prices like crazy. We do see in some markets that prices have come down a little bit, but it just depends upon which market you're in. There are some in like the Inland Empire as well as in Phoenix and Vegas that have had more of an issue because their expected market time, the true speed of the entire counties or the entire region, have really it's really high. So when it gets high, it becomes more of like a buyer's market, but you have to be careful. That does not mean that values are plummeting. That's not what we're talking about at all. And this is only temporary. So right now, buyers have a lot more choices out there. And it's a very, very buyer-friendly market. We've talked about this before, that right now, because demand matched up in the wrong way, it's much better now as far as interest rates are concerned, but it doesn't match up according to the best time of the year, spring and summer. And instead, it's coming in the fall and during the holidays. That doesn't do the overall housing market a lot of good. So we haven't had a ton of transactions. We're seeing more transactions right now, but it would have been better if we saw this during the spring and summer for more buyers and sellers to shake hands and exchange properties. And but come 2025, what we're going to see are rates when they're below 7% and it matches up against the spring market. Look out, cook out. It will be a totally different atmosphere. So if you're a buyer waiting, I don't know what you're waiting for. Right now is a really good time to purchase, and waiting down the road, you're going to find that there's going to be more competition because as rates are lower, it opens up demand. It opens up the home ownership opportunity to more and more households across the United States, all these people that have been renting. So they have been waiting, and what they're waiting for, it's not a crash in prices, it's a crash in rates. So rates aren't going to become crashing down, but this is making it much more favorable, which will be much better for the spring. And by the way, there are when we look at different models, we see the pathway to 5% interest rates, and that means anything in the fives. Once we get anything that starts with a 5, it will make a total difference for our housing market, and you will see our market, the housing market across the United States blossom. And that means more homes coming on the market, but far more demand, which unfortunately, what all economists see is there's going to be more demand coming online than there are going to be homes coming online, because there's still a lot of people enjoying rates below 3% or below 4%. But still, there will be more homeowners that will come on the market because it's been a long time since we've had rates below 6%. The last time we were in the fives was August of 2022, and that is 26 months ago and counting. And so, but once we're in the fives, that's where you're going to see the overall housing market thaw out. So that frozen market, it starts to thaw out a little bit when we're in the sixes, but it thaws out a whole heck of a lot more once we're into the fives. So thank you for joining us. I invite you to like this, the video that you're seeing. If you like the content, please subscribe to our channel. That's how we get more views. It's the way the algorithms work. It's not like we're trying to make a buck from YouTube and all that stuff. But what we want you to understand is we're about setting expectations. We're not about pushing a narrative. This is about setting setting expectations based upon everything that we're seeing in the data. And our most recent report that just came out for many markets, and next week the rest of the markets will get it, is called Overpricing Dilemma. It talks also about the number of cancellations, expireds, withdrawn, so the number of people, sellers that just throw in the towel because they started out overpriced. So if you'd like a free month, go to reportsonhousing.com. We have a ton of different metros that we work, all of SoCal, the Bay Area, Phoenix, and Vegas, and utilize the coupon code BOUNCE for a free month. So I want to thank you so much for joining us once again for a housing debrief. Hope you have a fantastic finish to your week, and we will see you on the other side.